5 is Mr. William Butler Yeats. And so, as we all know, Yeats is phenomenal, and when he was obviously going to be in my top 5. And so the challenge I had with Yeats was, okay, so I'm going to take this opportunity to write a poem without using the word I, which is very difficult. As poets, we know poetry is the most self-indulgent thing in the world, and we know ourselves better than probably anything else. So it's very difficult for me to get away from I. So I tried it, and whatever. He said, "The world is full of magic things, patiently waiting for our senses to grow sharper." The quest. That shade of green experimented upon the terrain, diluted, stroked, seen, the proper hue was easy to find, unique and most pleasing. So strangely, one is tempted to believe that nothing is happening, and they are told as encouragement to seek in hopes of finding. A mirror came as a gift. It regretted the absence of the lost or destroyed. Not long afterward, the mirror was changing, had come to be much more curious. Once upon a time, we matched. 4 is Miss Emily Dickinson, who said, "Saying nothing sometimes says the most." Bullet holes, after Emily Dickinson and for a few friends. Our lives have stood as loaded guns beneath pale paint-chipped corners, where in the most hollowed hues of the most cryptic crevices rest the bullet holes, still warm, of what we are struggling to remember. Like, remember that one time we hopped that fence near that church and the San Andreas shook our souls out from beneath us. But you broke my fall, and you caught me, because back then you had arms for soul catching and hugging, which in your language may be synonyms. We were black and bruised, running through the mission in January. We laughed, we lit a match, watched as we lit the decaying Christmas trees on fire. But even in the burning bush, the wildlife living inside would rather fade into ash with their home than expose themselves. And this is just but one of what I speak, and the most hollowed hues of the most cryptic crevices, one bullet hole, still warm, of what we are struggling to remember. Like, remember that one time we stayed up all night around a table that grows for company. We took shot after shot, we read poem after poem, we took the dog on a walk in the morning on the way out for coffee. And when the sun finally rose, we all thought that these must be the golden years. But if you drift too close to the golden sun, then you will burn like a decayed Christmas tree or gunpowder. Because once you fire, your hand is stained, and all that remains are the bullet holes, still warm, of what we are struggling to remember. Like, remember that first time I read at the corner. It was about you and your golden glow. I must be a moth, I said, and that hasn't changed, just so you know. And although things now may seem black and bruised, my arms are still made for soul catching. In this natural disaster, it is every man for himself, and I ask myself if this tectonic shift has passed. But we can't yet seem to recognize our neighbors without the houses that once surrounded them. We continue to speak, but only through telephones composed of thread and paper cups. And maybe that's all we have. And as I sit in the most hollowed hues of the most cryptic crevices, I pick up my makeshift telephone and attempt to spackle these bullet holes. Shakespeare. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. So this is a letter that Shakespeare would have written to John Donne. And it's kind of mean, but I think it's accurate. Dearest Jonathan, it's also a cut-up. Shall I compare thee to a 3-personed God? As you but knock, breathe, shine, and seek to mend, rough winds do shake and batter your heart, and summer's lease hath all too short apart. Sometimes you break, blow, burn, and make me new, but often your words hold me captive, prove weak and untrue. And I labor to admit you when fatigued by your words, meaning when you speakest of angels, air, and birds. Yet dearly I love you, and would be loved fain, as you enthrall and humble me time and time again. My honesty, as thy eternal summer, shall not fade, but methinks in coming years your poetry will live under my shade. So long as men can breathe, or lakes can run, so long lives me, I am done with done. So 2 is HD, aka Hilda Doolittle, who, as some of you probably know, was married to Ezra Pound for a really long time. And she was actually in junior high when he was in college, and he was like stalking her. Like, he was just so fascinated by her. So she's finally like, yeah, I'll marry you, by the time she was like old enough to marry. And so they had like a really dysfunctional marriage. And she actually was diagnosed by Freud himself that she was bisexual. So then shortly after, they got a divorce. But I am such a big fangirl for her, which is why she's number 2, because I think that she is the great woman behind the man of Ezra Pound, who everybody thinks created American poetry, but it was really HD. I'm just saying. She said, consider the birds, be wise as serpents. And this is just a love letter to her because I love her. HD's Garden. Hilda. I call you by your first name because I feel like I know you. Maybe I knew you then, but I know that I feel you now. On my bookshelf, in my writing hand, or in my thoughts, I think you're here. Maybe you combed my hair for me at night, or braided it in the morning. I hope you did. Because in this life, I miss you more than my tangles do. Hilda, I ask you, did you teach me the secrets of your craft? Did you kiss me goodnight? Did I ever make you smile? I may never know. A feeling similar to all the readers of your poems. Oh, Hilda, so many unanswered questions. You were so ahead of your time, so graceful in your prophetic ambiguity, so beautiful in your mystery. Hilda, I love thee, and I hope you loved me too at one time or another. So many people wanted your love. It is very possible that I never knew you, but sometimes I fancy that I was maybe a blooming flower in your garden, a cyclamen, a lily, a violet, that watched over you or perhaps whispered secrets in your delicate ear as you came in for a kiss with your nose. Hilda, they wanted you to be pristine and sheltered in your garden, protected from frost and other things, but I know that you just always wanted to be a wildflower, eternally. Yours truly. So now we're down to number 1.
Who is it?
Any guesses? No? It's like a pretty hodgepodge list, but 1 is Mr. Allen Ginsberg. Should have been obvious. He created, like, Hal trial, hello, free speech, so why we're sitting here. I mean, my criteria for greatness was like the social and cultural work that certain poets did, like how they altered the social fabric, and I just think Ginsberg's the man. So if you want to duke it out in the parking lot after this, then I will fight to the death for Ginsey.
Good, bravo.
So, hold on, I need to, this is kind of okay, he said, follow your inner moonlight, don't hide the madness. And this is called A Street Corner Named Desire for 16th and Mission. About 8 years ago, a few folks with overflowing stacked milk crate bookshelves, negative balances in their bank accounts, countless blisters on their ink-stained fingers, degrees in poetics and experimental arts, a taste for Fernet on payday and $2 chunk on rent day, and imaginations that ricochet between genius and lunacy, decide to transform the open mic. No more introductions, no more set lists, no more mic. Let's replace these things with the BART station on a busy street corner, chalk circle, an unwritten code, and a heart that never ceases to beat. 8 years later, it's a church. A late-night Thursday service offering salvation to all of the colorful characters that would otherwise get themselves kicked out of the daunting doors of an early morning Sunday service. A weekly sacred gathering, more packed than the beauty bar, right up the street on the same night when it's happy hour and they sell $1 PBR pints on special. The corner is not just any street corner. It's a $2.50 out the door, malt liquor-soaked corner, oozing with angry fixes and fractured dreams, cigarette butts, and egos too big for their boxes. This corner, a chalk circle for the excluded, a soapbox for the mad, a stage for those who desire an audience. A corner that glows under orange streetlights, sometimes rain-soaked, wet with the tears of Dionysus, and we have to replace the chalk with candles on those nights, but man, is it tough to brave it on those nights. Rain or shine, we still gotta go. Poets aren't made of salt, Charlie always says. Now, Charlie is a character that is hard to color, and if you try, you'll probably have a hard time staying inside the lines. But the best I can say is that if the corner were an orchestra, performers with a death grip on their weapons of mass construction, drunks with a death grip on mysterious beverages and brown paper bags, spectators in thrift store fashion, crackheads with old sneakers and a dilated pupil eye and any loose change, passers-by with a curious eye, black-eyed prostitutes who fade beneath the fog, underdressed for cold California, and the men in blue with shiny black shoes who often turn a blind eye towards us, then Charlie, the 40-something-year-old poet who can drink like a 21-year-old on his birthday, would be the conductor. He helped build this church, and he very rarely misses Thursday night service, even when it rains, and he convinces the poets to sit on the wet pavement, engage in one round, and then head over to the pub for some warmth. Those kind of nights are especially common during the winter months, but damn is it cold during those winter months. All bundled up with layers and layers and hats and scarves and gloves and a bottle of whiskey in a brown paper bag with a little bit of soda to chase. And I'll pull the bottle out from my rain-stained ripped bag, and the bum next to me will say, "That's the antifreeze right there." I'm trying my best to stay warm, so let's sit a little closer and get warm. But keep an eye on your stuff, because some crackhead who lost their mind a moment ago in the alley up the block is looking for anything to sell so he can get his $2 to score his next hit, and he might swipe your bag, so keep it close. So who's up next? Is it that girl with the melodica and the heart-shaped sunglasses? Because you best not come to this corner with an instrument and not play it. And you've been here for an hour already, girl. This ain't no fashion show. Everyone is looking at you, which means you should probably get up there. But no, it's your first time, and you don't know the rules yet, and you can't get over your stage fright. Someone get that girl more whiskey, and we'll all listen to the notes you're not playing. Everyone says if you can perform here, then you can perform anywhere. It's a tough crowd, but if they dig you, they'll let you know. So the young man with the curly hair and the fancy guitar that he spent all of his student loans on has been here before and been here for a little while and is jonesing to get in that circle. When you're jonesing that hard, you better have something brand spanking new or something genius, because we're all here sitting on the sidewalk in the cold waiting. Everyone here is waiting for something. Waiting for Bart, waiting for Muni, waiting for art, waiting for the second coming, waiting for a fix, waiting for someone, waiting for something to happen. Which is why you gotta be quick, like an electric shock. Feel the vibe out, jump in, do it, own it, and leave them wanting more. The collective mood of the entire night is based upon whoever is in there right now, and there are a lot of people in here right now, so don't fuck it up, because crowd control is tough, and this crowd is cold, high, and waiting. So the young man with the curly hair and the fancy guitar starts playing a tune, and the people start quieting, but this is a good start. He belts out the lyrics like a poet on his way out of hell, and the crowd starts nodding their heads in approval. But goddammit, the sirens are on their way, and pause. And for a second you can't hear anything except for the obnoxious flare signal by red flashing lights. 2 cop cars and a fire truck 3 times as bad. Those who got something to hide call 5 and bounce to somewhere more secret. This is a rough block, but that's the corner, man. You gotta compete with the street sometimes. And the fancy guitar's still going, and he's now stomping his feet for some solid percussion. Nothing's gonna stop that man from playing, and he's made that very clear. Then the sirens turn the corner and play. We're back. The crowd starts clapping to help the guy out. Rule of thumb, when in trouble, turn to percussion, because audience participation works on your side and you'd surely be a score to break a beat. Then an older street thug approaches me. "Hey, pretty girl, you need rocks?" "No, thank you," I say. "No rocks for me. I got my antifreeze and my moleskin open and bookmarked because I'm trying to get up in that circle." But the girl with the melodica and the heart-shaped sunglasses just now got over her stage fright. Someone must have given her more whiskey. And now she's waiting patiently at the outer rim of the circle, so by the unwritten code, she gets to go next. Fancy Guitar is now finishing up his song and managed to collect a little bit of sweat above his top lip, which speaks in volumes on a night as cold as this. At this street corner, where the booze is cold but the chalk is hot, a bird box in the sky, a church for the ravenous and the high, a corner that we keep, brown paper bagged in our back pockets to pull out and keep ourselves warm. So that's it for me. Thank you guys so much.